All right, hi everybody. Welcome to Descry Gaming. I'm Descry, and I am bringing you another response video. This time is my friend and one and only Nelson's response video for his Hulk review. And if you're wondering, you haven't seen me for a while, been on vacation. You can see I have a more darker complexion from all the sun that I've gotten. Anyways, but we're gonna jump into basically the response video. He's going over his Hulk review. Now his reviews tailored towards solo Hulk, which I'm going to cover, but also I will talk about multiplayer Hulk because I think they play differently and there's some strengths that multiplayer Hulk has over solo Hulk. So anyways, let's share the screen. We'll jump to his video and start talking this up. All right, so this is Nelson.
Can Hulk smash in Marvel Champions? Today, we're going to talk about it.
So this video is quite long.
Welcome back to Nelson All Over Cars. Today we're doing a Hulk review, a deep dive into everyone's favorite character in Marvel Champions. I did play 4 different games with Hulk. Actually, I think 5. I think I did 5 this time. And those will be linked down below, but you can see Hulk
I like his
played
t-shirt
in Marvel Champions in all 4 of the aspects. And then that 5th game was a additional aggression game for Rush. So those are there, and that kind of level set us.
Yeah, his video is quite long. We might kind of fast forward a bit here.
A little bit, but he does have the experimental research action, which is draw a card and discard a card. This is significantly worse than like Tony's futurist ability, where you get to look at 3, discard 1. Tony has that 6 hand size. So many characters have a 6 hand size. I really wish that Bruce had 6 and a better ability.
Yeah, so he does have a weak alter ego action. I wouldn't say it's like a negative. It's more like a neutral action, but leaning towards more of a minor positive. But it is weak when you compare the roster out there. Almost every alter ego action or mechanism in alter ego is a way more beneficial thing for most heroes. Hulk has kind of, like he said, one of the worst sort of kind of alter ego abilities. But it still has its uses, right? Hulk goes to 5 hand size instead of 4 in hero. He can cycle maybe a card that he really doesn't need. And that might be the Hulk smash, or it might be the resource he needs. So I still think it's a positive for him, but yeah, when you compare it to other heroes, like he said, Iron Man, it does feel kind of feel bad type of feeling. Now, let's continue here.
But here we are. Bruce has 4 recovery, which can be bumped up to 6 with the Banner Laboratory support. This is a 2-cost support that also gives you a mental resource generator in Alter Ego. I typically just sit with that 4 recovery because the 2-cost support really doesn't get to pay itself back very frequently.
I kind of disagree with him on Banner's Laboratory. I think one of Hulk's strengths is his high HP pool. And if you put down a downtime plus this, he goes to 5, 6, 7, 8 recovery. And because he has such a high HP pool, you're able to really take advantage of that super high rec with a lot of HP. And then his upgrade can boost his HP even more. So I think with high rec heroes, if you have a high HP ceiling, I think it does do better than other heroes that have a lower HP ceiling. If you play on harder difficulties, or you play scenarios where there's a lot of indirect or a lot of just damage you're taking, again, this really outshines other heroes. And or if you're playing like counterattack and aggression, and you want to take a huge hit, But if you have a downtime in Banner's Lab, you can just instantly heal back to like a healthy amount of HP. So I do find you can take advantage of that extra resource to play Lockjaw and Alter Ego, or put some allies down or some weapons down or whatnot. So I don't think it's useless. Yes, it's sort of, you have to be an altar to take advantage of the wreck, obviously, but also the resource. But I don't think this is a terrible card. Yes, he's comparing it to other cards that maybe you could use in altar plus hero. But again, the +2 wreck, I think he's maybe kind of underlooking that. But again, I mean, I'm talking it more in a harder difficult setting, harder modulars, harder villains. They hit harder with a lot more damage, overkill and stuff like that. So I do like the Banner's Laboratory for Hulk. I think it works well with what you want to do with Hulk. You want to be kind of like a tank, and defend for other heroes or take abuse. So your allies can get a little bit more stuff done before they run out of consequential damage. All right, let's keep going.
Frequently, unless we're going like multiplayer or a longer term game, I'm very rarely seeing this pay back off because I want to be in Hulk form, the hero form, so much more frequently than I want to be in Ultra.
So there's, in my point of view, there's two ways to play Hulk properly: Rushdown Hulk or Builder Hulk. Rushdown Hulk, you don't want to build it at all, so you don't want to play Banner's Laboratory. You just want to be doing as much damage as possible and just kill the villain as quickly as possible. So you're not playing building cards that much. You're just going to the face. And then there's Builder Hulk, which I think, yeah, you do want to play Banner's Laboratory. But in my opinion, that's the best way to play Hulk. And I can elaborate a little bit more on those two different play styles. And I'll explain why you want to pick one or the other. We'll talk about that later, though. But let's continue.
Ego for solo play. So yeah, the nice recovery, however, is symbiotic with Hulk's biggest strength, and that's his 18 health. So this is the most health that we have of any champion in the game as of now. He can get even higher with some of his cards and also some cards that we can add into the deck. But this is where Hulk's strength lies. This, and he has some crazy strong cards, but the 18 health is, I think, his biggest asset. And so the nice recovery can be a boost if you are taking a lot of hits. If you're playing cards that have the villain attacking you, you can lean into getting more value out of the Banner's Laboratory. But here we are. 18 health. Don't really take damage in Alter Ego, so let's flip the card over and talk about the hero form. So Hulk on hero has a 0-3-3 stat line, which is not what we want for solo. Solo, we want high... Not variance. I was about to say variance. We want balance. That's the right word. We want balance, and this is high variance. Hulk.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Rushdown Hulk is one of the strongest rushdown heroes for solo. So if we're talking straight up rushdown heroes in the game, he's in the A to S tier ranking for rushdown. So again, I mean, it's 3 attack, 3 defense, mainly the 3 attack, and the high HP. So if we're again playing in that type of play style, his stats are really good. But again, if Nelson is playing Hulk more like a typical way you play Marvel Champions, which you build up, try to control, then yeah, obviously what he says to have a 2 Thor, 2 attack, 2 defense, or some type of stat line like that is always better. So yeah, Hulk is not the best. I think solo Builder Hulk is a little bit weaker, but usually when I play Hulk, I like playing, if I'm playing solo Hulk, I like to do the Rushdown Hulk, but yeah, we'll continue.
Cannot thwart. Well, he can. You can bump that up and you can actually take a basic thwart action. You just cannot be effective at that. Now, the 3 attack is really good. The 3 defense is really good. But a lot of times, especially in solo, that thwart is going to be our biggest weakness. He does have a, I'm not going to call it an ability, but a printed disability on his
Yeah, it's
card
pretty
called
bad.
Rage. It's the only
Everyone
villain
kind of knows about
efficient.
it.
We don't have any cards to discard. Down.
Yeah, so I just want to fast forward that part because it's he has a negative ability, and he's probably one of the very few heroes in the game with kind of a negative ability. And it does get worse when you're playing like protection and other aspects that you might want to hold on to a card. So it kind of limits the way Hulk might want to play, especially in protection aspect.
A lot of villain health. And so let's start out by talking about a 1-cost upgrade called Boundless Rage. It's a 1-cost +1 attack, but then you have to discard it. It's a forced response to discard when you do change to Alter Ego. I like this card because in most turns, you are using your basic activation to activate or to attack. That is what you are mainly doing. That 3 attack bumps to a 4, then you get to utilize that. And we do have cards that will benefit off of Boundless Rage that we'll talk about here in later, but specifically Crushing Blow is kind of the
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to talk about Boundless Rage. I think it's a good card. I think you're able to do some cool deck archetypes based on that +1 more attack. And it does synergize with a lot of cards in the game that boost up your attack, but Crushing Blow is an example of it. I think the thing is you don't really want to play Boundless Rage if you're doing a Builder Hulk and it's in the early stages of the game. You usually want to play your Boundless Rage when you're about to go Super Saiyan on the villain, or maybe the second deck pass if you're playing a more slower Control Hulk game. But yeah, for Rushdown Hulk, I would get it out as soon as possible.
most straightforward one. It's a 1-cost physical requirement attack event that deals damage equal to your printed attack, or no, not your printed, your attack. So this is really efficient. This is actually a really efficient card. It's a 1 for 3, or if you have Boundless Rage, 1 for 4. If you've modified your attack any way else, could be 1, 5, 6, however high it goes. The Boundless Rage Crushing Blow combo is fairly decent. Let's talk about some of the cards that are not as good as those two. Thunderclap is his AoE damage. It's 3 cost. I call it the 3s card.
So he doesn't like Thunderclap that much. I'm kind of on the same fence with him. It would have been nice if you could do 3/3/3 on the same enemy, kind of like Black Widow. But then you could say it'd be a little bit too strong because then that's almost like a Hulk smash. But one nice thing, it is a superpower. So if you play Death Focus, you can kind of take advantage of it. It's better in multiplayer, and I think he goes into that. It's a little bit better in multiplayer. But I don't think it's like a terrible card. But again, not as good in solo. And it's a little bit better in multiplayer. But yeah, I kind of agree with what he's saying about it.
It's a 3 cost, 3 enemies, each take 3 damage. I don't love it. It's kind of expensive for what it does. I wish I could.
Right.
And that is Hulk Smash. This is a 3 cost interrupt and says when you make a basic attack, you get +10 attack. If only physical resources were used to pay for this card, you get overkill. This is nice, but it can be overkill, and pun very much included there. If you do not have a minion on the board and you're going face with that villain, you want to use this card.
So I think he likes this card. Most people do. It's a good card. It's great damage, like 10 damage. So there's very few heroes that have that kind of raw damage. I mean, there's Captain Marvel that can do it, but I think overall it's very flexible. It's got overkill and it has a lot of damage. So, and it's a superpower. So, yeah, it's probably his best event card that he has, Hulk Smash.
You can't hold on to it for next turn, so you want to be using this. You get 2.
Now, what you can do, he's basically saying when your turn ends in Hulk Hero mode, if you still have that in your hand, it's going to get discarded by your Force Interrupt. But if you flip to Alter, and then in your turn, you can kind of keep it because you're in Alter. So sometimes that's what I do in multiplayer, or if I have the main sort of under control and I can flip to Alter and then set up for a really big Hulk Smash turn the following turn with a bigger hand size.
Of these in your deck, and this can be a significant chunk of the villain's health. However, if the villain's sitting at 6 health, you have Boundless Rage out, you are, oh my goodness, math, you're doing 8 extra damage because you're now attacking.
So we're gonna keep going forward here because he's pretty much just talking about Hulk Smash, that it's a good card, which I agree with
Some of
him.
those problems that I was talking, it's outshined a little bit by a basic card that we have, but Unstoppable Force is a 2-cost ready, and if you only used physicals to pay for it, you get to draw a card. This is actually really easy with the current card pool. I was going to talk about this later in the video, but I guess now is just as good a time as any. But Hulk wants physical resources. He wants to build his deck with physical resources because so many of his cards either require physical resources, get an extra benefit if you have physical resources. And so when we're looking to deck build, we are very much looking for those physical resources to add into our deck. And with the current card pool, we have a lot of good options. And so when I'm building decks, I'm typically very much discounting it any card that does not have a physical.
Yeah, okay, he's kind of taking a little bit too long on this card, but I agree with him. Yes, Hulk wants physicals. Any hero in the game that does like a ready or ready event is a good card. So any readies in the game are very, very good. You can kill a minion, attack the villain. You could exhaust to get rid of something if there's like an attachment on you and it requires you to exhaust. You can thwart. So readies are always super strong, especially if you kind of like buff your hero up for a big turn and you get more mileage out of a ready. So Unstoppable Force, you get 2 of them. It's pretty staple card, and I think he just kind of talks a lot about that card. But then we got Suborbital Leap. Now, I think if I remember, he does not like this card too much, and let's just hear what he says.
0 thwart, which is very, very tough. And so we need to figure out how to mitigate threat. And he has 2 cards in his kit that can do that. That's Suborbital Leap. And when I say 2 cards, it is 2 copies of Suborbital Leap. This is our thwarting. It's very expensive, but it is our thwarting. It's 3 for 3 threat, but if you use only physical resources, you get 5. So when I was talking about you get that extra little benefit if you only use physical resources, here you go. So 3 for 5, I don't like it. It's not that great. It's very expensive. But
okay, so yeah, because he goes into a little bit more, but basically in a nutshell, he's saying he doesn't like the card. Now, I would say in solo, yes, this card is clunky, and but in multiplayer, I think this card gets a lot better. It gets even more better if you play with a Justice player or if you're in Justice Hulk and you're using Overwatches, because then you can use your Suborbital Leap, bounce it for 5 off to another scheme or main scheme, and so you're moving like 10. So again, with Overwatch, I think this is a wonderful card, but more in multiplayer. But yeah, solo, it is awkward because you're kind of most side schemes or things are not higher than 5. But yeah, I do like it in multiplayer, and again, I really like it with Overwatch.
With what twice per deck pass because expensive toys apparently. You'll know the last non-resource card that I'm going to talk about is called a movable object. This is another 3-cost card. You'll notice a pattern here. Hulk likes his expensive toys apparently, but this is a card that gives you +4 hit points, taking you up to 22 hit points and retaliate 1. It's expensive for what it does. If we look at like endurance, it's a 1 for 3.
But you get retaliate.
Like Dauntless, which is an aspect card, so like we have to put that. We have to think about that when we're comparing it. And if your hit points are higher, you get retaliate 1. Electrostatic armor is kind of in there, but it does only take up 1 card slot. So
he's not over the moon with this one. I like it. I think if you're doing Builder Hulk, this is a great card. It's going to synergize with your lab. More importantly, you get to retaliate. The retaliate does help a lot. Hulk can take all these punches from minions and you're slowly doing damage or taking toughs off. But it's nice, again, because of his lab. And if you have a downtime, then you're healing up for a lot and you got retaliate. So I like the card actually. In multiplayer, I think it's maybe a little bit better, but solo's not bad. Again, it's if you're doing the builder approach for Hulk, this is a good card in my opinion.
Like, there is an argument to be made. I'm typically passing on this. Unless I'm going for a perfect defense build. So Hulk has a very, very expensive kit. This is at least a little bit of saving grace in order to.
Yes, I agree with him. This is an awesome resource for Hulk. Not many heroes have the triple, so Hulk is one of those heroes, and you can do some really burst turns when you get the triple. He has two of them, so again, that does help him a lot because of his shortcomings with hand size, but again, pretty solid card, and he just goes into detail. I believe that it's a good resource card, so we both agree on that. Okay, cost curve. I don't know if you want to spend too much time in the cost curve section here.
Average cost at 2.3 resources per card. Bonus points if you can tell me who he's tied with in the comments. I'm curious who knows that. But this is really bad, especially with his poor hand size. So if you have a higher hand size, the cost curve scaling to the...
So this is where I think things get a little confusing for a lot of people. He's talking about Hulk cost curve. Yes, on paper, if you're not putting down helicarriers, queen carriers, mansion, other resources, if you're running lockjaw, you can take advantage of lockjaw with your hand. So I think when you're doing builder Hulk, the cost curve isn't so bad because you have a lot of resource generators. So I think this 2.31 average doesn't reflect if you're going like the builder Hulk approach. But yeah, if you're doing rushdown Hulk, then you want to pay attention to your cost curve. I 100% agree with him on that. But if I'm playing sort of a builder Hulk type deck, I'm kind of ignoring this a bit because once I get those resource generators down, this is not as bad as it looks. So he goes in detail about Hulk has awkwardness because he has a lot of threes and small hand size. But like I said, I think with the resource generators, it kind of solves a lot of that awkwardness on cost curve and playing Lockjaw or Machine Man or other cards you can kind of dial into or Plan B and stuff like that. Anyways, let's jump to basic cards.
Hulk's basic deck is pretty freaking good already. And so a lot of the cards in basic have been printed.
So I don't remember what he mentions in here, but I would say right off the bat, Lockjaw MVP. Nick Fury is not bad just because it gives you a lot of options with Nick Fury to remove Thor, do damage, or draw more cards. And then you've got Ingenuity, which is a great resource generator. And then of course you got Queen Carrier, Helicarrier, Mansion. Those are all pretty solid for Hulk.
That help Hulk pretty significant.
Oh, but one big one I really like in Rushdown Hulk is the one that readies you for one cost. I forget what the name is called, but it's a one cost event in basic that readies you if you have 14 hit points printed or higher. So I haven't in Tabletop Simulator, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But let's hear what he says.
And so he can run a pretty good gray deck.
I think it's Limitless Stamina, if I remember.
The first ones that we'll start out and talk about very briefly is Limitless Stamina and Unshakable. These
are
there
it is.
Cards that I was talking about earlier that kind of get you out of that
no-win those are great cards with Hulk.
Or stunned with a Hulk Smash in your hand. This allows you to ready or gives you steady, requiring 2 status cards in order to actually take effect. These are great. He has more than 14. He's printed on the card of Unshakable. I'm trying to think of who's on Limitless Stamina. I think it is.
All right, let's fast forward a bit.
Unless Bruce Banner has.
Yeah, I talked about Juni.
Now, these have already been up here. Source, or you can use it to set yourself up.
Oh, okay. So assess the situation. I don't like that with Hulk. Because I feel like this is a great card for certain heroes. Like I would say Gwen Stacy, it's amazing. Maybe some more combo heavy type heroes, it's not bad. But for Hulk, I think there's better cards to put in your Hulk deck than this. That's just my opinion. But he's basically saying, well, if you have a bad hand, you can kind of chuck a resource into a situation. That way you're not kind of taking a hit of you can't play a card and then discard it. But I think if you play with Plan B and a lot of Lockjaw and other type cards, you can take advantage of pumping, extra cards into those type of cards.
For a better turn next time, Plan B, discard a random card from your hand. If it's the last card, you can set it up so you're always discarding the last card. Discard that card, deal damage.
So he goes into Lockjaw.
Because if nothing else, he can pitch his hand for
yeah. So he likes Lockjaw, which I'm on the same page with him.
Hulk, just gonna mention it. Hulk really likes the symbiote too. The +1 hand size is phenomenal.
No. Okay, so here's I'm glad he kind of mentioned symbiote suit. My opinion is that the suit is a trap for most players because you get that extra encounter card, and then so it boils down to how hard what difficulty you're playing on, how hard is the villain. So again, if the harder the difficulty or harder villain or harder modular, this is going to end up killing you more than helping you in most cases. But again, if you're playing on weaker difficulties, weaker settings, then again, this card will be benefiting you. But it costs a lot. Again, on hard difficulties, there's like overwhelming force that will target your highest cost upgrade. That's on standard too. So that's going to, hit that off. But yeah, I think this card is, I think the community sort of like there's certain situations, certain heroes that yes, this card does work well. And I would say multiplayer better, because you can kind of withstand maybe a surge from the villain a little bit easier in multiplayer. But yeah, solo, I would avoid this in solo. I wouldn't run this based on what I was saying. But yeah, characters like Drax and some other characters that have a lot of readies or, can deal with maybe an extra encounter card. This is a great upgrade, but I would say most of the time it's a trap for a lot of heroes and players. And especially on solo, I just don't see it. Again, if you play on a very low difficulty, yeah, this card can be great, but I definitely would not play it on the harder villains or more difficult modulars. No, unless it's multiplayer and I'm playing a certain type of hero that really gets an advantage of this. But he basically says, "Oh, it's great on Hulk," but I do not think so.
The +1 to all the stats is great. +10 hit points, you can just never defend. You're going to be fine. Hulk enjoys a symbiote suit. And we are at the point of the video where we're going to rank the aspects. So we're going to rank these aspects in terms of least good to best in. And then once I get to my favorite aspect, I will call that out. In fourth place, we have leadership. Leadership is, the ally aspect. It's typically expensive, which goes...
So I was kind of shocked that Hulk, or he would put leadership at the very... last, because I don't think leadership is the weakest for Hulk. I actually think it's maybe at least 3 or 2, but not the weakest. I would put protection. Well, yeah, I would say protection is very clunky with Hulk. I would actually, put protection in fourth place. But let's hear what he says.
Against what we're trying to do with Hulk. That being said, we can make it less expensive. Hulk doesn't need chump blockers, which is another huge strength of leadership, is that we're going to have a lot of allies on the table, meaning that we have a lot of defenders on the table. Hulk does not need that because he has that high health pool. So he doesn't need, I should say he doesn't need it as much. But leadership just kind of is a little bit anti-synergistic of what we're trying to do. That being said, clarity of purpose, Hulk loves. So add that into your Hulk leadership.
I mean, most heroes like that card. But I think the synergy, I guess, in leadership with Hulk is you can face tank a little bit more than the normal heroes. But I'm not a huge fan of face tanking everything, especially when you get into like the higher difficulties and more S tier villains. You generally don't want to face tank too much. But yeah, Hulk can do it a little bit more than other heroes in the game for sure. Then he goes into third place aspect.
In third place, I have protection. So protection works in two different lanes. Actually, you know what? I may have done two protection games with Hulk now that I say it. It was too long ago. This video is significantly overdue, so I apologize about that. But Hulk, yeah, it was both. It was two protection games. Hulk has the perfect defense build where he can, just never take damage.
No. I don't think he has a good perfect defense build because he can't hold on to the key protection event cards. And it's just there's other heroes in the game that can do the perfect defense a lot more smoother, cleaner, and they can actually hold on to key cards during certain turns. So I kind of disagree with him that Hulk does a good perfect defense build. He can do it, but not as consistent as other heroes can.
Defend every time, activate all your upgrades, your hard to ignores, your unshakable.
Again, there's other heroes in the game that do the perfect defense way better than Hulk and can trigger hard to ignores more frequently.
Your unflappables, all of that to just the perfect defense archetype. He can do that. It's good. He has that 3 defense. Armor Vest puts him at 4. He has Retaliate in his kit. So
I would kind of go actually the repurpose route with Hulk, and also maybe follow through, or not follow through. The one I forget what it's called, but it's where you discard. You do an attack. You discard it. You discard a counter card and count the boost minus the attack on the villain, and then if you do damage, you ready again. But like that's good with a kind of a repurposed deck, and you put energy barriers out with Hulk, and those are fine because you're not holding on to them. Anything that you're not holding on is better. But yeah, not the strong repurposed decks I think are better with bigger hand size heroes because it's more of a combo type kind of deck. But yeah, bottom line is I'm not a believer of Protection Hulk. Not saying you can't pull off something like a Protection Hulk, but I think it is synergized the worst with what Hulk wants to do. He's not a finesse perfect defense hero in my opinion. He's a big tank with lots of HP. Yeah, and there's a few ways you can go about playing protection, but I just don't think for me it gels well with Hulk. But let's move to a second favorite aspect.
Ways that we can rank it. In second place, I have aggression. This is in second place. Rush is really good. Rush with Hulk is very, very good.
I would say Rush, like I said, if we're talking about best rush down heroes in the game for solo, Hulk is way up there. Maybe not the very pinnacle best rusher, but he's definitely A or S tier rush down hero. And aggression is very good with Hulk and rush down.
Good. He can blitz down a hero very quickly. Now I have it in second place.
Blitz down a hero.
Less consistent than Justice, which is our first place. That and when I'm saying that is like if we're going up against.
You can also do a builder type Hulk in aggression. There's like the brute force Hulk deck, which can be done in multiplayer. And it's kind of fun to play, and it's not terrible deck. If you get it set up, you can do pretty good thwarting and damage.
Someone who is not rushable, we're gonna have a really hard time rushing against that villain.
All right, so what he's saying basically, yeah, the rushdown Hulk will not work against all the villains in the game, which is correct. Loki, Thanos. There's a couple villains in there where you have to kind of deal with a lot of threat management, and they have a lot more HP and whatnot. So, yes, that is true. But I would say 80% of the villains in the game are rushable for the most part. So, yeah, Rushdown Hulk is still pretty valid. And you can kind of tweak your deck a little bit to beat some of those villains that require a lot of thwarting. But it's multiplayer aggression is a lot easier to deal with those type of villains than in solo. I feel like Justice, if you're doing solo Hulk, you have to go kind of builder Hulk Justice to defeat like villains like Loki and whatnot that require a lot of threat management.
If we're going up with someone really high health pool, expert Thanos, right, it's going to be
So best aspect, he
warding
put
potential and allows you to focus
Justice,
on damage with his.
and if we're talking about solo, I still think Rushdown Hulk is the very best. But if I think he chose Justice because you can't rush every villain in the game, so therefore he picked Justice as the best. But yeah, I mean, but again, I kind of enjoy multiplayer Marvel Champions right now, so I like to look more about them in multiplayer than solo. But again, I'm trying to comment on his video, which is mainly solo Hulk. So I mean, I can kind of agree with him that Justice is up there. He's got it number one. I would put it number two. But yeah, if we're talking if it's against Thanos or Loki, then obviously it has to be number one then. But okay, so then he goes, there's a community ranking, and they kind of went with what I would have picked. I would put aggression first, justice second, leadership third, and protection last. Actually, that's exactly how I would rank them. And then you have his overall thoughts here.
I'm going to put him at a D plus tier. So starting out that.
So he put Hulk at a D plus tier, which I think I disagree with him because our pool of cards have grown so much, and heroes now are we're able to build decks that can really utilize strengths and weaknesses of each hero a lot more than we did in the earlier days. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration came with Hulk, was in the earlier days. I think the better Marvel Champion players, and when they deck build with Hulk, have a better shot of, beating scenarios with Hulk. And more importantly, he's a lot more powerful if you synergize some of the cards that are in the pool nowadays. So Rushdown Hulk, like I said, he's up there, S tier, A tier for Rushdown heroes. Builder Hulk, which is just another word of saying like a slower controlling type Hulk, which most heroes play like that. But he's more into a lot of resources like mansions and queen carriers and whatnot. Yeah, I would say that he could be like a B maybe, or a C plus. But yeah, he's still he's still kind of lower power rank, but I wouldn't put him in a D in the very last. I think again, if especially when you go into multiplayer, and I understand I believe it's this ranking for solo, but I still think that's really crappy for solo to put him that low. And the fact that, like I said, he's one of the best rushdown heroes in the game for solo, so it's kind of weird you throw him way at the very worst when he's literally one of the best rushdown heroes in the game. But again, that's his opinion. I would put him more if we consider that he's one of the best rushdown heroes in the game, and he's pretty good in a builder Hulk type format. I would put him in a B. Yeah. So, anyways, that's gonna wrap it up, I think, because then he has some thoughts on multiplayer, which I believe he just basically goes over that he thinks he plays a little bit better in multiplayer because some of his shortcomings can be put over on your teammates to help. And I agree with that. And that's like that with a lot of heroes. But I think you can be more dynamic with Hulk in multiplayer. You can go a little bit more specified with your deck building, which we're going to jump to Tabletop Simulator here in a second. All right, so yeah, there we are. Let's go back. Okay, so this is Tabletop Simulator. We're almost done wrapping this review up, but I wanted to show you what a Rush Hulk solo deck might look like. But the key things is we're not really running build, and if we are, the build cards are very cheap, like one cost counter. Well, this is kind of like attack build card, but one cost Jaborn, one cost Plan B, one cost Death Focus. Again, Death Focus will synergize with our limited stamina plus our Hulk smashes. So it's not a bad card to put out. And then we got cheap allies to do damage or chump block. and we have 2 power aggressions and a double strength with audacity to try to proc the drop kicks. And running Bring It because in solo, you might get a couple minions coming out on the counter reveal, and Angela as well. And Hulk has so much HP that the minions aren't really, they're just tickling Hulk basically. So we can get some more card draw from Bring It, which is kind of nice. And bro beatouts are kind of in a, I would say, in the sub area, meaning you can, run them or sub them out with different cards. Now, this is a really good rush down. In fact, if you looked at my video channel, there is can we beat Galaxy's Most Wanted on standard in 30 minutes. So basically, I go through the whole campaign under 30 minutes and beat it with Hulk rush down, and that's including all the different villains without changing any cards. So yeah, it does work. I've even done it on one of the hardest campaign settings, and it works. Now, subs are basically depending on the scenario, right? So if you're facing Ebony Maw, then obviously you want to play Unshakable. So scenarios with a lot of stun, you want to run that. Say you are playing, so Rush Down Hulk doesn't really want to play Smash the Problem, but again, the subs are more over here as well. But there is called the Brute Force Hulk deck, so it's more of like a build, and then putting in like brute forces in, and then not using your basic attack and doing a bunch of quick strikes and whatnot. I don't have it set up here for you guys to see, but there are different archetypes that you can build your own Hulk. But the main emphasis is Builder Hulk runs all these like basic grays, Ingenuity, Avengers Mansion, Hell Carrier, Queen Carrier. And that helps them with that cost curve, and it just makes them be able to do a lot more stuff. But again, Rushdown doesn't run that, and then Builder Hulk does. Now, Rushdown's a lot easier to do in solo. It can be done in multiplayer, but everyone on the team has to be rushing down. So I kind of just think it's really, solo is a lot easier to pull it off. Builder Hulk, Justice. I think this is a good kind of general deck that I put together, but basically it's got the Lockjaw, Nick Fury, and Moon Girl for card draw, or using when you have an awkward hand to get Lockjaw out. One nice thing is you get Lockjaw out with a Beat Cop, that's like thwarting for 3. And on solo, most side schemes are 3. But if you have a interrogation room, kill something, that could be 1 plus Lockjaw another 2. Or if you have 2 Beat Cops in an interrogation room, that could be 3 thwarting. But the emphasis is on Overwatch, and then bouncing that with your Crisis Averted or Suborbital Leap. Now, again, this archetype plays a lot better in multiplayer because there's more higher threat, and you can take advantage of that higher threat removal from Hulk. But yeah, I like this sort of deck. You got some Confuse and good card draw with Nick Fury, Moon Girl, and Lockjaw. But that is just a quick kind of idea. And these are cards to think for subbing in based on scenario or villain, what you're going against. But there's different kind of decks you can make Hulk. But I think the easiest way to describe it is Rushdown Hulk or Builder Hulk. And then you can experiment how you want to go about, in my opinion. So here are his cards. Now, Nelson kind of went over all these, and I already talked about them, so we don't really need to go over that. But yeah, this pretty much wraps it up, guys. I just wanted to just show you a quick idea visually how I like to go about Hulk. And again, thank you, Nelson, for allowing me to do a response video. If you guys like these type of videos, you want to see more response videos from different creators. And it doesn't have to be on heroes. It could be other topics we could do a response video on. Like, comment in the video, and I'll try to produce more of these. And I will see you next time. And thank you again. Catch you next time.